Questing, the core of the classic WoW journey from levels 1 to 60, taking you across dozens of zones as you tackle hundreds of quests, both by yourself or with your friends. Most journeys will have you bouncing all over the place from zone to zone as you experience all the wonders of both Kalimdor and Eastern Kingdoms. But what if for my journey, I were to go zone by zone, not leaving until I complete every quest I can solo, with no help from an outside source? Welcome to Questlocked. Last episode, we started our adventure in Azeroth by delving headfirst into Durotar, tackling every quest we could pick up with our troll hunter named I Can Solo It. We successfully took down notorious foes like Fizzle Darkstorm and Gazooz, and set our sights on the next zone, Silverpine Forest. Before we begin, if you haven't seen the last episode, make sure to check it out, and if you need a refresher, the rules will be in the description. First, we start our adventure by finding our way to the Zeppelin to make our first trip over to the Eastern Kingdoms. We get on the boat and arrive in Tirisfal, where we pick up the Delivery to Silverpine quest. Then we go to Undercity and grab the flight path. After that, we are ready to take our first steps into the Worgen-infested Silverpine Forest. We start off by picking up a few quests on the way to the Sepulchre and escorting Erland about 20 yards from one house to another. We then go kill a bunch of wargs for their hearts, and then head off to the Sepulchre. Here, we are able to accept a bunch of quests, the first of which requires us to go kill some Moonrage White Scalps, which we hit level 13 in the process of completing. Following, we have our first somewhat thought-provoking quest requiring us to kill Ivar the Foul, found in a barn at the Ivar Patch. This farm is filled with ghouls, and inside the barn, there are several ghouls that will all be socially aggroed together, so we pretty much have to take the fight as a 3-on-1. It's nothing we can't handle though, as we do some pretty simple fence kiting to make sure the ghouls can't reach us while we kill Ivar. Then we kite out the other 3 ghouls, letting them de-aggro. This would have been actually a pretty tricky quest, but since we are a range class, it was not a real big issue. We then go to the Dead Fields to kill Nightlash and complete another quest, spotting our first Son of Argal shortly after, where we can see a live wild encounter between an unsuspecting duo and a Son of Argal. Luckily, they lived, so I don't feel too bad though. We then go kill some bears and a copious amount of spiders to finish the last of our quest, and we are able to obtain a piece of fashionable gear in the process. Also, killing all of these spiders reminded me that we really need to get some better bags, because we have had no bag space for quite a while. We then head back to the Sepulchre, turn in a few quests, and before picking up the next Arugal's Folly quest to grab the Remedy of Arugal from a house not far away. We then go turn in our quest at both the Sepulchre and at Undercity to get us to level 14, before we head back to Orgrimmar to train and level our engineering, getting us ever closer to our much needed goggles and target dummies. While we are in Orgrimmar, and since we have hit level 14, I think it is time for us to tackle our first dungeon of the challenge, Ragefire Chasm, where we will pick up some much needed gear upgrades, because right now, we only have 2 greens, both of which are pretty underwhelming. The quests and experience we can get from RFC will also help bridge some of the level gap between us and the higher level quests in Silverpine, as there are not really enough quests there to get us all the way without some substantial mob grinding. Pretty quickly, we are able to find a group for the dungeon, and we swiftly head in, getting the Thunderbluff quest that we need shared to us so graciously by our party member. We then start taking on the dungeon with relative ease, even with our tank, who despite never tanking before and never playing warrior, is actually doing a pretty decent job. We eventually win our first piece of loot, some sweet 2 strength, 2 agility gloves. We continue taking down the bosses and trash, using proper crowd control and going at a respectable pace, completing all of our quests along the way. We lose the roll on some 3 agility leather pants, which makes me sad, but we at least get the chanting blade from Jurgosh the Invoker, which isn't terrible. We then finish out the dungeon, whilst getting no more gear, but at least we got good experience and finished our quest. We then go turn in our quest in Orgrimmar, grabbing the Axe of Orgrimmar to sell for some much needed cash, and we hit level 15. Now we have to get to Mulgore, with our only option being a run through the Barrens, but we don't pick up any quest and kill no mobs on the way. We do stop at the crossroads to grab the flight path and turn in the Silverpine Sample for Hellbrim quest, which is within our 1 breadcrumb quest limit as the chain finishes there. We also get a respectable 2 stamina cloak from this. We then eventually get to Mulgore, and my recording software crashed, and I didn't see it, so I don't have any footage of me in Thunderbluff, but just know we grabbed a flight path, turned in our quest, and grabbed the Savannah Bracers with 3 stamina for our effort. Finally, we head back to the Eastern Kingdoms, turning in our last RFC quest in Undersea for some sweet pants, rounding out our new set of gear, which is a big improvement over our old gear, which we take back to Silverpine for more questing. First, I decide to try to go to Deep Ellum Mine for the next Arbergal's Folly quest, trying to kill some Worgen. While I am here, I meet another troll hunter who is struggling a bit before his pet dies and a mob respawns on him, causing him to run straight into 2 more respawns for some reason, who social aggro back to me as he runs away. So I have to run away, and I think I would rather stay away from this cave for now, because that was a pretty bad sign of what's to come. To finish the quest, I just head north where the mobs are more spaced out, and I kill a lot of Worgen before the shackles I need finally drop. On the way back to the Sepulchre, I turn in the Decrepit Fairy quest as well, and once we are back, I turn in my quest and get quite lucky with a bow vendor here, because they are selling a massive upgrade with over double our current DPS with the fine longbow. This is a super important weapon upgrade and will be greatly appreciated for the more difficult quests to come. Now we can head back to the Deep Ellum Mine to kill Grimson, which previously gave us some trouble. This time around though, there is a mage farming mobs here, so there are hyper spawns, but I decide to head into the cave anyways, even if it's not the wisest decision. We go to the back of the cave and clear it out, claiming Grimson's head. After we kill him though, the hyper spawns come back to bite us, so we must use our pet as a sacrifice to help us escape. Thank you so much for your efforts, Boar. We then go turn in the Border Crossings quest at the nearby Dalaran Mage Camp, hitting level 16 on the way there. Now we head back to turn in some quests before heading over to Amber Mill to farm out some Dalaran pendants, which, whilst doing this quest, we pick up a +3 agility cloak, which is a pretty solid upgrade. At this point, I decided that I needed to name my boar for all the work he has done, and I named him He Can Solo It to pair with my own name, and shout out to this commenter for the idea. We then head over to Undercity to turn in some quests before going back to Silverpine to mine some more ore for my future engineering levels, because we are going to need some very important items from it very soon. For that though, I decided to head over to Pyrewood Village for a second, see where we are damage-wise, see how close we are to being able to do the quest in there. And we aren't doing too shabby, I'd say. With our capabilities estimated, I hearth back to Org, buy a new bag, train abilities, and level up engineering a bunch, until I can finally craft my new goggles to complete our look and give us maximum style points. Now, it's time to continue my journey looking better than ever, so we go all the way back to Silverpine and back to Pyrewood Village, where we farm the rest of the Pyrewood shackles we need for our quest. Whilst taking down these elites, I'm noticing that these enemies do a lot of damage with their abilities, and the Pyrewood Watchers with their bows are extremely annoying, but luckily there is a neat little gameplay feature we can use to avoid this when we come back in the future. But I'll touch on that later. For now, we go turn in our quest, then head to Fenris Isle, where we collect a lot of gnolls for the Rothhide Ichor we need, in addition to plenty of cloth, which is going to be useful for first aid engineering, and lastly the Talking Head, which is a 3% drop rate quest item we need to make sure we grab to finish the quest chain it starts that takes us deep within the Fenris Isle fortress. Before we do that, we need to be a bit higher level though, so we go back and turn in the quest we have finished before going south to the Greymane Wall, past our good friend Son of Argal, to visit Valdred Mordre, to steal his hands, and he won't give them up when I ask nicely, so I just have to take them. And even if he is 4 levels above us, he poses no threat with our boar at our side. With that done, we go back to Undercity to turn in some quests, then we are sent back to Silverpine for more turn-ins. Now, we are down to a very few quests, with a lot of level discrepancies between all of them. This poses a bit of an issue for us, as if we want to be able to do all of these quests solo with no world buffs, we will definitely have to grind a lot of experience without any questing at all. And that would be really boring and take the fun out of the challenge, so I'm going to introduce a new rule for this challenge. This rule will be that if a quest is very difficult and higher level than the rest of the zone, I will be able to save the quest for later, and they are not required to unlock the next zone, but I will have to come back and complete them, and I must be within 1 level of the quest when I do so. I plan to save this rule exclusively for quests that are higher than a zone's level bracket, and pretty much unsoloable when underleveled. In Silverpine, this would apply both to the Weaver quest and the Assault on Fenris Isle quest, both of which are very difficult to solo even at a proper level, but even harder if I am 3 to 5 levels beneath them, if not impossible. Don't worry though, we will be back to complete these quests in due time, but even so, we are not done with Silverpine, and we still have some very challenging quests to come. Now with that being said, next on our journey I set my sights on Baron's Peril, to take on some of Ravenclaw's undead minions. This quest is level 21, and I am only level 17. And this quest is in a pretty spooky cave, so this is kind of scary. We get our first glimpse of how sketchy this can be, as we fight a few enemies and struggle to even kill a level 20 skeleton. Unfortunately, my greed for mining copper veins knows no bounds, so we head straight in the cave to mine the copper before we get respawns all around us, and to be rather safe than sorry, I hearth out in fear of my life. This does give me the opportunity though to finish leveling my engineering to get access to a super valuable item we will definitely need for a few quests later on, and that is target dummies. If you don't know, these are engineering only consumable items which can be placed on the ground to taunt all nearby enemies to attack it until the dummy dies. This is a super strong tool in hardcore, and is great for getting enemies off you no matter what, which can save you from so many deadly scenarios. Having target dummies available lets us not only use them to tank for us, but also help us get away in dire situations. Also while in Org, I work a little on first aid, but I have an incredible linen cloth shortage. With our new assets in hand, we go back to Silverpine to cleanse Baron's Peril once and for all. We slowly but surely take down ghouls and skeletons within the cave. In this process, we do have a rather tremendous hiccup involving an accidental social aggro of 3 ghouls that I kite straight into a patrol of 2 Dalaran mages and another Dalaran enemy who frostbolts us. This could have been really bad, but luckily our new target dummies helped us out. In retrospect, I definitely shouldn't have kept the ghouls leashed because for some reason I didn't think all 3 of their aggros were linked together. Anyways, we head back, kill the rest of the enemies we need, and hit level 18 in the process. Now we can go turn in our quest, and I went to level my engineering a bit more and train, so I go back to Org, do a loop around Duratar because I am running very low on copper, then go prepare myself for the real challenges to come. Before we go back to Silverpine, I head over to Thunderbluff and grab the Until Death Do Us Part quest, because I almost forgot about it, and all the things says it is a Silverpine quest, so I didn't want to miss it. Now, it's time for me to tackle the real challenges of Silverpine, first of which being the Talking Head questline, located within the keep in Fenris Isle. This area is filled to the brim with gnolls, often requiring us to pull packs of at least 2 enemies, and makes us have to be very cautious to not pull extra enemies and get ourselves killed. Also, you may notice that my pet has Rend buff. Unfortunately, you cannot manually remove the buff from your pet, and dismissing doesn't work. So I tried to keep pulling to make sure my pet was never topped off for the duration, so the 300 health didn't matter. First, we travel towards the back right of the fort, and turn the quest resting in pieces in at the grave back there. This part is pretty easy, with us only having to deal with a single pool of 2 enemies while avoiding a few patrols. Now the hard part begins, where we have to go within the castle to turn in the hidden niche, which is at a shelf deep within at the very top. This could get really tricky since it can be hard to see enemies around corners, and the tight spaces makes a lot of enemies try to fight us within our dead zone as a hunter. We manage to pool tactically, never taking pools of over 2 enemies if we can, and making sure to use bombs to keep the enemies at bay. The only real issue comes at the top of the staircase, where we accidentally butt pool 2 enemies whilst trying to kill another. Which requires us to actually use a target dummy to get out unscathed. But good thing I have a lot of them, so I can use them rather generously. Eventually, we make it up to the top, where we turn in our quest, accept the next part, and make our great escape, jumping off the roof onto the wall, and then the floor below, where we take out the murlocs standing in our path. Also, while we were here, we got our first pair of shoulders, which is pretty cool. We continue by going to Undercity to turn in the quest, getting a dagger with a 0.1 second DPS increase as a reward. Nice. With that done, one of the 3 difficult obstacles are now down. Next up on our list is the Pyrewood Village quest, in which there are 2 with their own fair share of challenges. The first to tackle is the Recipe for Death quest, requiring us to go into an inn at the far back of the village and loot a journal in a room upstairs. This will take us about as deep into the village as we can go, so there is a lot of room for things to go wrong here, and a single mistake could easily kill us. Remember how I said Pyrewood Village had a cool gameplay feature that can help us out? Well, what I was referring to is how at night all of the humans here become Worgen. While this is a cool visual change to display the Worgen curse, it also changes the abilities of all the enemies here, making them considerably easier to deal with since there are no ranged enemies or casters. With all the enemies easier to handle here, we take our first steps into Pyrewood Village by trying to go through the front, clearing enemy by enemy to the end. About halfway through, I quickly learned that this is not going to work, and we just can't kill things quick enough to avoid a respawn sim patrols. With the front entrance off the list of options, I tried to find another way in. Eventually, I stumbled upon the idea of jumping down from the Shadowfang Keep entrance, which will let me get straight to the back of the village, allowing me to skip a lot of enemies. Also, I have an escape route to the ocean if needed, since there is a hole in the back of the fence here, so that is pretty lucky. Now we start clearing, and immediately we accidentally pool 2 elites at once, which despite our level advantage, proves to be quite the challenge. Our boar starts to take considerable damage, so we have to use both a target dummy and bombs to take down the Worgen. This showed that there was pretty much no room for error here, as fighting even 2 enemies while trapped in these buildings was going to be extremely difficult. Luckily, I came up with a really solid strategy for pulling these enemies in a safe and reliable manner, and that is with the ability Eyes of the Beast, a level 14 hunter spell that is really underrated in my opinion. This ability allows you to see through the eyes of your pet, letting you control them and use their abilities for 1 minute. This is actually a super safe and reliable way to both scout and pull enemies one by one deep within buildings and around corners. As a hunter, being enclosed is usually the last thing you want to do, and phase pulling can be very scary and unreliable. I also love how this ability has a real use in hardcore, as it is one of those classic WoW abilities that just feels very immersive and unique, and gives the game a lot of its fantastical charm. By utilizing Eyes of the Beast, we are able to pull enemies one by one and drag them out of the inn, before we make our way into the inn, where we continue to use Eyes of the Beast to drag the upstairs enemies straight to us. An unnecessary risk I probably shouldn't have taken here is letting this patrol stay alive, because if these Worgen fled into it, we could have a chain pool of 2 or 3 happening, but luckily we were safe. Eventually, we found our way to Bernard, the final enemy guarding his journal, who was pretty easy to defeat. After the inn was cleared and Bernard was dead, we grabbed the journal and hearthed out, because I was not risking running into respawns and patrols. Now we are at the final stretch for Silverpine, with only a few quests left to tackle. I immediately head back to turn in a Recipe for Death, and pick up the next part, which is pretty chill and takes us to kill some Murlocs and Lake Creepers on Fenris Isle. While completing this quest, we did hit level 19, and we got an upgrade for our chest piece, so we don't have to wear our dress anymore. After we gather all of the moss and the tumor, we can go turn in our quest at Undercity, and as a reward, get some useful potions including a swiftness pot, which could really help me out in a pinch. We also get a +3 spirit offhand to go with our dagger, which is better than nothing, since we can't dual wield till next level. Now it is time to head back to Silverpine and take on the most dangerous quest of this episode, that I am very unsure of how it will go, and that is the Pyrewood Ambush Elite quest. Essentially, the way this quest works is that you are in the Town Hall of Pyrewood Village, and you must help a friendly NPC fight off multiple waves of elite enemies. The waves start small, with 1, then 2, but then eventually get to 2 waves of 3. This quest can be really tricky to solo, since you have to be able to take on multiple elites at a time, back to back to back. And if your DPS is too low, the NPC will die, and you will fail the quest. Luckily, I have a pretty solid plan on how to tackle this quest. First of all, the NPC that helps you is very tanky, since she is a decently high level and has a lot of HP. This means she can tank 1 or even 2 enemies at a time for about a minute, and if it's a 1v1, she can win the fight herself. Second, our pet will be really helpful here, and since I use my talent points to make them very tanky, they will be able to survive an onslaught after onslaught. Basically, I will be able to let the NPC tank the enemies I'm not fighting, and go one by one, letting my pet tank for me as I kill each mob. I will, of course, also have target dummies in a pinch, and can kite the enemies over the railing at the back of the room if needed. Also, there is a reset spot in this room at the top of a corner bookshelf if necessary, so I have a last resort to escape if needed. To get started, I head straight into Pyrowood Village, making sure I am buffed up. Then I clear my way to the town hall, whilst having some real close calls dodging patrols. Once I get to the town hall, an epic battle ensues. With some hard work and smart play, we are able to take down the Pyrowood ambush with relative ease. We did have a close call, with one of the enemies fleeing out of the building, and if that guy pulled extra mobs, we could have been in trouble, but luckily we got off easy. With Pyrowood ambush complete, we can turn in the quest, and then make our great escape with our Hearthstone because I am not risking anything. Now, all that is left for Silverpine is to do the Journey to Hillsbrad Foothills quest, so we make our way over, aggroing a few scary high-level cougars on the way, but a target dummy and a pet sacrifice give us an avenue of escape. Once I reach Terran Mill, I turn in the quest, and that is that. Silverpine Forest has been completed for the time being. We have completed all of the on-level quests, and will make our return to tackle the high-level big bads of the zone next episode. Now, with Silverpine Forest complete, we need to spin our wheel to chart the next zone for our adventure. Our three options that we are an adequate level for are Stone Talon Mountains, Ashenvale, and the Barrens. So, let's spin the wheel. And there we have it. The Barrens are the next zone we have to tackle for this challenge. One thing I am going to ask of y'all is if y'all want me to do all of the quests for the Barrens that we outleveled for the sake of completion, or if y'all just want me to do only the quest above a certain level threshold. Leave a comment below of how y'all want me to approach the Barrens. Also, if y'all want to see me stream this challenge live and see my questing process, let me know in the comments below. Anyways, if y'all enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed it, and turn on notifications to not miss the next episode. Anyways...